This is an On the Ice and Behind the Benches podcast on the Sports for Beginners podcast feed.
CNT Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down, nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
Blue Jays, Tigers. Game 2 of a 4-game series starts right now. Blue Jays game recap on the Ice and Behind the Benches and Sports for Beginners is lighting up and letting go. In other words, lights up, let's go. Welcome to Sports for Beginners. This is the show where I cover the Pittsburgh Penguins, Toronto Blue Jays, and take you on a journey through the world of sports. From the fans' perspective, here is your host, Scott McGregor. Let's have some fun. Hello, Tiger fans. Hello, Blue Jay fans. Welcome into Game 2 of a 4-game series set between American League East, top the division, Toronto Blue Jays, number 1, and American League Central, first in their division, the Detroit Tigers. Last night, I mentioned that we were going to cover this game, and we're going to cover all of the 4-game series, weather permitting, for Game 2 and, of course, Game number 3, which are afternoon games for Saturday and Sunday, Saturday being tomorrow, and Sunday being the series finale for these two teams. Now, early in the show, I should say late in the show last night, I paid respect to a WWE legend. And if you're a baseball fan, but you're also tuned in to SmackDown tonight for WWE, I feel it's important to take 1 minute to talk about the legendary Hulk Hogan. Now, it's a little fresh. There are a lot of details through Hulk Hogan and the man behind the Hulkster, as we call him. But as you probably heard on Friday Night SmackDown, before all the action began, WWE CEO, and now, of course, a former in-ring competitor, the Game Triple H, and of course, Paul Levesque, as the real name, with all of the wrestling family, made a 10-bell salute to honor not just a great man, not just a great entertainer, but an Americano like no one had ever seen before. Our thoughts and our prayers are with Hulk Hogan, otherwise known as Terry, his family, friends, and of course, fans as well. There are fans of Hulk Hogan who were originally known and have still been known as this day, Nears,
Even at the age of 71 years old, his fan base was always known as Hulkamania, where all of his Hulkamaniacs would run wild. If you don't know what that means, well, now you have the chance to relive how such a man like Terry, otherwise known as Hulk Hogan, to the WWE, WWF at the time, and of course WCW during the Monday Night Wars. Now you have a chance to relive that entire legacy. Before we get into the game, as I am the host of the program, Thomas McGregor, I have already given our 2 minutes of silence, and I would just like to let the Hogan family and the Hogan fan base, known as Hulkamania, that my thoughts and my prayers are with you during this difficult time for sports for beginners and on the ice and behind the benches. He was a great man, a great wrestler, and a great entertainer nonetheless. There will never be another Hulkster like him. And with that, we'll take a break and get into tonight's game of the 4-game series. That is about a minute to talk about Hulk Hogan. We will take a break and we will get into game 2 of a 4-game series between the Tigers, who you see on the left side of me, and on the right side of me, you see the Toronto Blue Jays. Game 2 breakdown when we return. That was for you, Hulkamania, because I felt it only fair to open the show with that. We'll be right back.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo, two powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
Looking for a sports podcast that covers sports weekly as well as gets you set up for the day? Check out Weekly in Sports with me, Scott McGregor. We give some shout-outs of the week to podcasts like this one and those who do them. Discuss the Blue Jays, Bills, Raptors, and more. To learn more, check out the Sports for Beginners Facebook page. Search Sports for Beginners.
All right, everybody. Welcome back into Blue Jays game recap. I had to get that off our chests, and of course, our host, who is the host of Sports for Beginners and the host of a brand new Blue Jay show called Weekly Blue Jays Recap, happening amidst the end of a 3-game series homestand with the Kansas City Royals. That, of course, will also cover this road trip with the Baltimore Orioles, who are next. And, of course, the previous homestand, which included 3 with the Giants and 3 with the Yankees. We will talk about them and where those teams are at during the standings update, if there is time to get there. But we have to talk about the game in which the Tigers were 60 wins and losses. Now, on the mound, for this game, we had Jose Barrios versus Cater Montero. I hope I'm saying that right. I could be saying that wrong, so I'll stick with K Montero as I used before. That is the first letter of Montero's first name, and the last name, of course, is Montero. He took the hill for the Tigers with a record currently at 4-2 on the season. Jose Barrios' record going into this game was 6-4. That record moved from 6-4 to 7-4 with a win over K Montero, whose record is now 4 wins and 3 losses, which, if he had gotten the win, would have meant that would have been his 5th consecutive victory with the Detroit Tigers in the pitching. Last night, we had a clean game with no errors committed in this game. Unlucky for the Tigers tonight, as they pick up just 2 runs on 5 hits and commit 2 errors. The Blue Jays pick up 13 hits, no errors on 6 runs. They beat the Tigers in game 2 of this 4-game series and commit no errors in this ball game. The Blue Jays had a big 5th inning in the 4th inning. I should say the 5th inning, scoring 4 runs after taking the 1-run lead from the Tigers into a 1-run lead for them, leading it 2-1 in the top of the 4th inning. Now, the Tigers would have a 1-run lead throughout the first 3 innings of this game, but the first run lead for the Tigers wouldn't come until the bottom of the 2nd inning. But we'll talk about that more in a bit. The last run that the Tigers scored in this game came in the 6th inning, but we'll talk about that more in a bit. Let's go to the team comparisons. And it looks like the Blue Jays had 11 men on base, and the Tigers only had 4 men on base. Now, of course, as we mentioned, the errors when we did the line score of this game, the Blue Jays did not commit a single error, just like they didn't commit a single error when they won 11-4 last night at Comerica Park. However, what both teams did not manage to do in game 1 last night, which was Thursday, was steal a base. They both stole a base in game 2. They're tied at 1-1 in stolen bases for this game. Now, the Blue Jays may have touched base a lot more than the Tigers in the 11-4 victory Thursday night, but they only touched base 17 times to the Tigers' 9 touch bases in tonight's ball game. Tonight, the Tigers were the only one with the homer. Off of the bat, we'll get to who that is in moments. But among the 5 hits and the 2 runs, the Blue Jays take 6 runs in 13 hits. All right. Time now that we've gotten the team comparisons over with to get this game breakdown into overdrive. Let's go. Let's talk about it. let's go to our key moments. And when I say key moments, I literally mean the scoring, how it all started. We told you that no runs were scored in the first inning for either squad. But in the bottom of the second, where we kicked things off, it would be Dylan Dangler with his 14th double of the season, which would score W. Perez. It's 1-0 Tigers over the Blue Jays. Tigers 1, Blue Jays 0. Top of the fourth we go. And Addison Barger, he's got 22 doubles already on the season. This is 23. It's a line drive into center field. Parker Meadows to make the play. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. would score. It's Blue Jays 1, Tigers 1. On to later in the inning. Remember how I mentioned there were no errors committed in last night's contest? Well, here's something you never thought you'd see in this game. Joey Luperfido reaches on a throwing error by Jay Baz, as Addison Barger scores, and all of a sudden, what was a 1-1 ball game in favor of the double, which tied the game for the Blue Jays. Joey Luperfido and Addison Barger gave the Blue Jays their own 1-run lead. It is now Blue Jays 2 and the Tigers 1. So, at this point in the game, you have the Tigers with 1 run and the Blue Jays with 2 runs. Let's go to the top of the 5th inning. Again, he started things for the Blue Jays. He might as well continue. Oh, I'm sorry. It's Vladimir Guerrero Jr. who's got the stuff to talk about. He also had 22 doubles this season, and now he's got 23. Riley Green, the fielder for the game. George Springer goes from second base to third base, and Nathan Lukes scores the Blue Jays' 3rd run of the ball game. It is a 2-run lead ball game for the Blue Jays, with the Tigers having 1 run, which was the one that got things started on a, believe it was double. Seems like it was full of doubles, everybody. Everybody's in doubles. Speaking of doubles, while Vladimir Guerrero Jr. gets a double, so does Bo Bichette, the very next batter. Only he's got 29 doubles, and now he's got 30. This one on a ground ball to W. Perez. George Springer would score. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. would score. It is now 5-1 Blue Jays over the Tigers. Here we go to the other half of this inning. And boy, did you ever think the 5th inning for the Blue Jays would end? Well, it did end, but not before Alejandro Kirk singled on a live drive to Riley Green. Bo Bichette scores. Yeah, remember the guy that got a double that sent not just Springer, but Vladimir Guerrero Jr. home? Anywho, with Bo scoring, the Blue Jays would go up 5 runs. It's a 5-run lead, with the Blue Jays leading 6-1 over the Tigers. Finally, it's time for the Tigers to answer. And they answer in a big way, although some of us may think it was a blowout before they even answered. The Blue Jays have a 5-run lead going into the bottom of the 6th inning. It is the 6th inning where the Tigers manage to score their final run, and it comes off of Spencer Torkelson's 23rd homer of the season. It's a fly ball to left center field. That ball is gone, and the Tigers would lose this game by a score of 4 runs from the Blue Jays, 6 runs in total, 6-2 the final score for the Blue Jays as they take game 2 of this 4-game set in Comerica Park. Now, I said last night that Comerica Park's Tigers versus Rogers Center's Blue Jays still have a chance to win this series. And I didn't guarantee that the Blue Jays would win tonight. But I was going to be happy either way with however the game played out. We have another night game before a day game, as the host of Sports for Beginners just informed me during the break. And that game is a 6:10 start on Saturday. Now, we know who the pitcher will be for the Blue Jays, but we don't know who the starter for the Tigers will be. MLB, CBS, and all other sports apps indicate that it would be Tyrek Skubal, who was also a part of this year's Atlanta Midsummer Classic with the National League All-Stars and the American League All-Stars. However, with some personal matters on the way, we won't get into them. It seems as if his pitching matchup could be switched with someone else. But who? Who would come out from AJ Hinch to pitch against Kevin Gausman in Game 3? Who will it be? Is it really going to be a game-winning decision for the Tigers? Who knows? But we all know that the Blue Jays have 2 games up on the Tigers in this 4-game series. And there's only 2 more games to go. Now, the series is still up for grabs. However, it is very tough to win a 4-game series, especially at home for Detroit, and of course on the road for the Blue Jays. With all 4 games on your side. Right now, the Blue Jays have 2 games on their side, and they're just 2 away from walking out of Comerica Park with all 4. Will that happen? Is in the question. For now, we will take a break, get to some of the action that has gone on today, a lot more action than we had last night. We will get to our players of the game and our top performers, otherwise known as our players of the series so far. And we'll dive in a little bit more on what the pitching matchup may look like for tomorrow night's game. As the host of Sports for Beginner has just reminded me, 6:10 p.m. Eastern Time is when Game 3 gets going. 5:10 p.m. Central Time, 4:10 p.m. Mountain Time, 3:10 p.m. Pacific, 11:10 p.m. in London, and 12:10 a.m. in Paris. So there's a lot to gather here. And also, just before we take that word from the Sports Beginner Station, and of course, some words here on the ice and behind the benches, Scott has alerted me that he invites us all to join him on the 23rd episode of Season 4 for Sports for Beginners as you introduce to yourself, the audience, and he, the host, Blue Jays Weekly Recap on a special Thursday night drop, Thursday, August 7, 2025. However, the 24th episode of Sports for Beginners Season 4 will be dropping the very next day. So Friday, August the 8th, 2025, I believe, or following the week, as we have some huge breaking news regarding para ice hockey. The PWHL just announced earlier today some big news. What does that mean? Does that mean we have the PWHL regular season and preseason schedule for all? Find out on this edition of Sports for Beginners, Thursday, August 7th, 2025. All right, we'll be back for both Sports for Beginners and On the Ice and Behind the Benches' continued coverage of the Blue Jays and the Tigers, the players of the game, action for us on the diamond, and still to come, the American Standings update. And of course, that includes the National League, if there's time. That's all coming up when Blue Jays game recap continues.
Looking for conversations on the world of broadcasting, sports media, and from time to time, my favorite sports teams? Listen to Broadcast Map with me, Ali Musa. To learn more about the show and to view the upcoming schedule, like the Broadcast Map Facebook page. Search Broadcast Map.
Looking for conversations on books and more, as well as tutorials on using your favorite devices and applications? You've come to the right place. Join us weekly on Spicy Techie, where Ali and Sienna provide insightful conversations, as well as useful tips and tricks to help you along on your technological journey. To learn more, tune into the show and like the Spicy Techie Facebook page. Search for Spicy Techie.
It's the Blue Jays, it's the Tigers. That is our storyline for game number 2 of this 4-game set with the Blue Jays and the Tigers. Blue Jays fans, quick reminder to stay tuned toward the end of the series whether that be in Game 3 or Game 4 of this series. If it does end up going all 4 games, it could end up going just 3 games, maybe a doubleheader. But speaking of doubleheaders, the Baltimore Orioles series is coming up next, and that, of course, will be a doubleheader Tuesday with a day game and then, of course, a night game. We'll have it for you pending how the rest of this series goes, whether it's wins or losses from both Tigers or the Blue Jays in Game 3 and 4. We will see if we can cover 4 games with the Tigers and the Blue Jays, and maybe the doubleheader and the 2 games on Monday and Wednesday ahead of the series between the Kansas City Royals and the Toronto Blue Jays back at Rogers Center, which is a 3-game series set. More on that momentarily. I mentioned there were some games to look at as we inch closer to our American League standings update with, of course, the National League as well. But it should be noted that if you're a Kansas City Royal fan who will be watching the Blue Jays and the Royals take on each other at Rogers Center on August 1st until the 3rd of August, that's when the series wraps up. But they currently got postponed with the game against the Royals due to rain, and it appears that they will play a doubleheader tomorrow, July 16th, 2025. Sorry, July 26th, 2025. I believe the makeup game will be a day game, and the official game for that day will be a night game. I could be wrong. We will see how the cookie crumbles there. Games that were able to be played out, we have some amazing game finals to talk about, including the Nationals losing to the Twins just by 1 run, but tying the Twins in hits. 3 hits for the Nationals, 3 hits for the, well, Twins. And speaking of shutouts, the Cardinals, despite a really good game yesterday, I should say last night, since we were following that game ahead of our recap, which later sent you off to the remaining innings of the Angels and the Mariners. I hope you guys enjoyed the game if you were staying up for that. Nick Pivetta was the pitcher for the Padres. He lost the game. And of course, it was Miles Mikolas who won the game with the Cardinals by a score of 3 runs to 5 hits. They committed 1 error. But so did the Padres, who only managed to get 11 hits, but no runs off of the Cardinals. You could almost say it was almost too easy for the Cardinals. But I think the Padres battled hard. Just too many runs scored last night. I mean, the final was, what was it, 9-7, I think? I think it was 9-7 in favor of the Cardinals. I could be wrong. It might have been 9-7 Padres over the Cardinals, but I'm sure it was 9-7 Cardinals over the Padres. I could be wrong. Anywho, while the Blue Jays and the Orioles were the only team playing last night in the American League East, not today. We had the Yankees take on the Philadelphia Phillies. They lost that game 12-6. to 5 as the errors continued to haunt them. They committed 2 errors in this game, but made 10 hits on just 5 runs. The Phillies collected no errors, but 14 hits and 12 runs. The Rays battled hard with the Cincinnati Reds, but with 14 hits and 7 runs to 6 hits and 2 runs, it was the Cincinnati Reds who came out on top over the Tampa Bay Rays. Meanwhile, the Dodgers head to Fenway Park to play Boston Red Sox, and what seems like a gut punch for the Boston Red Sox was actually quite a good game, despite losing 5-2 with only 5 hits and 10 hits to each team. 10 hits for the Dodgers, 5 for the Red Sox, 5 runs for the Dodgers, 2 runs for the Boston Red Sox. They lose that game. Their record's now currently 61-43 for the Dodgers, 55-50 for the Boston Red Sox. The Orioles also lost, I believe it's the first game of 3 against the Colorado Rockies, in which they lost 6-5. 7 hits for the Rockies, 10 hits for the Orioles. And speaking of finals, how about a game that waited till the 11th inning to score an actual run on 5 hits to the Pirates' only 1 run? Remember how I said last night that the Pirates swept the Tigers before coming to play the D-backs? That is, of course, the Diamondbacks. Maybe they should have left a couple of runs, because once they did that, it only took 11 innings of baseball to decide a winner. The winning pitcher is, of course, Anthony D. The losing pitcher is Braxton Ashcraft. I hope I'm saying that right. I might not be saying it right. But they falter to the Diamondbacks 1-0. So a couple of shutouts to speak of. You had a 1-0 shutout in 11 innings, Pirates and the D-backs. You had a 1-0 shutout, Twins over the Nationals. Then you had a 3-0 shutout with the Cardinals over the Padres. But all around the rest of baseball, you had scores, including our game, which was 6-2 in favor of the Blue Jays over the Tigers. In Milwaukee, we had quite the game as well. It was 5-1 Marlins over the Brewers. And I believe a game just ended momentarily, but there are games still going on. That might be the Marlins and the Brewers. So the action that we have and we can send you to is probably the Mariners and the Angels, who are in the 3rd inning right now with a 2-run lead over the Mariners for the Angels. It is a 2-run lead in the bottom of the 1st for the New York Mets. But the Giants are threatening to take that 2-run lead or that 2-1 lead in their favor. In the top of the 8th right now, we have an 11-2 lead for the Athletics, as the Astros are down pretty big. And it looks like the game may be over. 11-2 is the score right now in the top of the 8th inning. In the bottom of the 8th inning and pretty much approaching its last inning, we have a 4-1 Texas Rangers lead over the Atlanta Braves, who currently sit at 44-57, with the Texas Rangers at 53-50 in their records. The Blue Jays currently sit atop the American League. We'll get to our standings update momentarily. But right now, let's get in to our top performers of the game and our player of the game for tonight. As we share our screen, is none other than Vladimir Guerrero Jr., going 2 for 5 with 2 doubles, an RBI, and 2 runs. How about Joey Luperfido? He is on a top performer, going 2 for 3 with a hit by a pitch, a stolen base, and a walk. Oh boy. If he's 2 for 3, I hope he at least got single or double. But that did not look too good for Joey. And at the very top of that top performer list, you've got the pitcher who beat K. Montero and the Tigers, Jose Barrios, 6 strikeouts, 2 earned runs, 5 hits allowed. He pitches a complete 6 innings and then leaves it off to the bullpen to finish the job. Speaking of the bullpen, let's take this into our final break and discuss who the Blue Jays and the Tigers used in this finale of Game 2. It was, of course, Yadiel Rodriguez who got the finish. Brendan Little came in, and he struck out a Tiger, left nothing by him. You had Braden Fisher get a strikeout, nothing by him as well. And then Yadiel Rodriguez finished the job, and he took care of business with 1 strikeout, and then the rest was all the defense for the Blue Jays. So in total, from bullpen, you had 3 pitchers used in the bullpen from the Blue Jays in a game that started at 7:09 p.m. Eastern Time, 6:09 p.m. Central Time, 5:09 p.m. Mountain Time, and of course 4:09 p.m. Pacific Time at Comerica Park. The attendance record coming up momentarily, but now let's take another word from our stations of On the Ice and Behind the Benches and Sports for Beginners, as we will be back with our standings update. But before we take that break, let's talk about Game 1 and Game 2 of this series. Now, I get it a little bit. This may be considered a blowout for the Blue Jays because Tigers are down 2 games to 0. And they only have 2 games left in this 4-game series. But there's still a lot of baseball to be played. And let's not forget, the Blue Jays play 4 against the Orioles, which was originally a 3-game series. But due to a rainout, we have a 4-game series with the Orioles at Camden Yards to make up for the rain delay of one of the official 3-game series from some month ago in the season. Now, it's true. The Blue Jays could potentially win that series. But let's focus on the Tigers first. Now, Tigers fans, before we take the break, as I said, I want to kind of talk to you guys about this series. And I'm open to your suggestions on what you think should happen, as we are just 4-5 days away from this year's MLB Trade Deadline of 2025 season. Now, I know things seem to be looking like it doesn't look like they could be getting any better soon, especially if the Guardians go on a run and now attack the American League Central. But it is still your division, and you still got games to play. Tomorrow's another game. You could probably take it. And maybe the Blue Jays will take it. Blue Jays fans, we obviously hope that we take that game, but we're only hoping to probably take just 3 out of 4. Some of us are probably hoping, we are getting really, really good at finding ways to win. Maybe we'll take all 4. But that's tough to do. We saw it against the Yankees at Rogers Center somewhat over a month ago, and maybe even 2 weeks ago. That was when that happened. They ended up taking 2 out of 3 in Rogers Center's 3-game series against the Yankees. All right. Look, the bottom line is it's open to you guys, Tiger fans and Blue Jay fans, on how you guys feel about the game. I thought this game was pretty good. Yeah, there were some errors that, as a Tiger fan, or maybe a Blue Jay fan, we weren't pretty happy about. But it is a game at the end of the day. And with that, we'll be right back with our standings update and more from this series as we continue to figure out who's getting the ball for the Tigers in game number 3 of this series, which is tomorrow. That is next. Stay with us.
I wonder if I could make it. It's almost getting to 8 o'clock p.m., and I am still a few more steps away from home to get to my computer to listen to CNT Radio's Cosmopolitan Culture Club. The best of the best music from around the world. Can't wait. I think I made it. CNT Radio, making your day brighter, one song at a time.
Looking for a good hockey podcast that covers your favorite hockey teams and mine? Check out On the Ice and Behind the Benches, where we chat about our favorite hockey teams from puck drop to the last play of the action. To learn more, follow the On the Ice and Behind the Benches Facebook page. Search On the Ice and Behind the Benches.
All right, Blue Jay fans, all right, Tiger fans, all right, baseball fans in general. We are about almost done here on Blue Jays game recap. Game 3 of this 4-game series gets going at 6:10 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:10 p.m. Central Time, 4:10 p.m. Mountain Time, 3:10 p.m. Pacific Time, and of course, weather permitting, we play all 4 games. The 4th game is scheduled to play out Sunday, while Game 3 is scheduled to play out tomorrow at night. Though there are thunderstorm warnings in effect, you never can predict the weather. Here's hoping that we play 3 games. We've played 2. Can we play 3? And can we play 4? That's in the question that we'll be asking ourselves Saturday and, of course, Sunday, when the Blue Jays and the Tigers play Game 3 and 4, if they play Game 3 and 4 of this series. Now, it's originally a 4-game series, and next up to pitch would be Kevin Gausman for the Blue Jays, alongside for the Tigers, the American League All-Star starter in Skubal, T. Skubal, would get the start for the Tigers. But due to some unfortunate news, it is clear that there is something happening with TS's personal life. Maybe it's something great. We have heard news that he and his wife are expecting a child, which is due any day now. Will it be due before Saturday? And he has to play with the Tigers and the Blue Jays? Who knows? Will they have it with Kevin Gausman taking the hill against TS for the Tigers? We don't know. Should this change? My theory is that Game 4's starter in Jack F will get the start against Kevin Gausman, and the one he's supposed to pitch against in, I believe, Max Scherzer, will have somebody else to pitch against on Sunday. It may not be Tarik Skubal. It may not be him. But it'll be someone the Tigers are looking at. It could potentially be a bullpen day for them on Sunday. All right, everybody. We're about halfway done here. I mentioned our American League and National League standings update coming up. But before we get to any of that, just a reminder that there are games underway right now. In fact, 2 games are in the last inning of their action. Those are the Rangers currently leading 8-1 now over the Atlanta Braves, and the Houston Astros currently trail the Athletics 15-2 in the 9th inning at the Astrodome. In the top of the 3rd, we have a 2-1 lead for the New York Mets over the San Francisco Giants. In the top of the 5th, there's a 2-run lead for the LA Angels, who currently have a hit lead of 4 hits to 2. So a pair of hits and 1-run lead for the Angels over the Mariners. If you're tuning into any of those games, I'd suggest you keep your eyes peeled for those games. They're sure to be quite games to watch. The Milwaukee Brewers lost to the Miami Marlins 5-1. The D-backs shut down the Pirates in 11 innings, 1-0. Also 1-0, the Nationals lost to the Twins in Minnesota. The Padres beat themselves with the Cardinals winning 3-0. The Cubs got their butts kicked 12-5 over the Chicago White Sox. The Royals and Guardians will have a doubleheader tomorrow on July 26th, 2025, which of course is Saturday, as their game got postponed due to rain. On the American League East side division where the Blue Jays play, we had the Tampa Bay Rays falling to the Cincinnati Reds 7-2. The Yankees fell to the Phillies 12-5, and the Boston Red Sox fell 5-2 to the Dodgers. And the Orioles, the next team up for the Blue Jays after this series wraps up with the Tigers, fought hard, but it was ultimately the Rockies coming out on top 6-5. Those are your finals so far. And that leaves us to the American League standings update for the National League and, of course, the American League as it stands right now. So let's have a look at the wild card race first. We know that the Blue Jays are the top of the division in terms of AL East, AL West, and AL Central. So we know that they are at the top of the game. And Blue Jays fans, that seems like a fun baseball team to be around right now, in however many years it's been. They now have a 3-game winning streak and are 7-3 in their last 10 games. They are currently 25-25 on the road, and against 500 teams, we are 38-29. At home, the record speaks for itself. The Blue Jays are 37-17. Meanwhile, for the Astros, they currently sit at 60-43 with a 1-game losing streak. The Tigers now on a 5-game losing streak, losing tonight to Toronto, but their series continues tomorrow. And of course, anything can happen. Their record is 60 wins and 45 losses. It could easily go to 46 losses with a victory from the Blue Jays tomorrow. We'll see what happens. In the wild card, we have the New York Yankees currently 2 games up in the wild card race with 56 wins and 47 losses. They're currently on a 2-game losing streak, where in their last 10, they are now 4-6. The Seattle Mariners are fighting for the number 1 wild card spot, which means they're just a game up on the 2nd wild card spot at 55-48. With a 1-game winning streak, they are 7-3 in their last 10 games. And they face LA right now, as in the LA Angels, or in WWE case, it's the Mariners versus LA Knight. Yeah. I used a little bit of a reference there because we teased Hulk Hogan. Like we said in last night's show, he had passed away. that day at 71 years old. Our thoughts and prayers with the Hogan family. Our thoughts and prayers with him and everyone there. But all right, you know, it is what it is, guys. It is what it is. And pretty soon, we'll be saying, you know, Hulkamania has run wild forever, because it will definitely live on until the day it dies. When will that happen? We hope never, but you never know. The Blue Jays also have the likes of the Boston Red Sox, who are 5-5 in their last 10 games, currently on a 1-game losing streak right now, but they're yanking their way up in the wild card spot. They currently are the third place wild card winners, and they are 55-50. Now, if the playoffs started today, just before I get over the other records, the Blue Jays, the Astros would each play whoever won the series between the Tigers and the Yankees, or the Mariners and the Red Sox. And yes, Blue Jay fans and Astro fans, if the playoffs started today, both teams, the Astros and the Blue Jays, would have home field advantage in their possession. But the season is still young. The Texas Rangers, currently 1 game back of a wild card spot, so they're creeping in on the Boston Red Sox, who are on a 1-game losing streak, and the Rangers, well, they're on a 3-game winning streak, just like the Blue Jays are in the American League East. Currently at 53-50, and they are against the Atlanta Braves right now. The Tampa Bay Rays, currently at 53-51. They, of course, lost their next game, of course, tomorrow against Cincinnati. They're on a 2-game losing streak. They're just 1.5 games out of a wild card spot. Cleveland Guardians are just 2.5 games out of a wild card spot at 51-51. So 51 wins and 51 losses. Kansas City, 50-53 is the record for them. Just 4 games out of a wild card spot, but that could change because they are just 4 games out of a wild card spot, and they have won a game. So it could change. Same with the Minnesota Twins, who are currently 50-53. Both teams are 4 games out of a wild card spot, but they could be in the race if you blink an eye. The Angels are 5 games out of a wild card spot, currently on a 4-game losing streak. And their next opponent is the Seattle Mariners. Actually, sorry, they are against the Seattle Mariners at 49-54. 45-58 is the finish line for the Baltimore Orioles. They're currently on a 1-game losing streak. They continue their series with the Rockies. The Athletics are on a 1-game winning streak. The White Sox are on a 2-game winning streak. Their record's 38-66 for the White Sox, 43-62 for the Athletics. But is it too little, too late for these teams to make a final push? I don't think so. The National League leaders are the American League East, West, and of course Central, in the Tigers and the Astros and of course the Blue Jays. But in the National League, we have the Cubs holding sole possession of the wild card as they try to get the American League Central Division back in their favor against the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, they're not playing the Milwaukee Brewers right now, but they aren't out of this playoff run just yet. The Dodgers hold sole possession of the National League West, and the Philadelphia Phillies are tied with the Mets now in the National League East. So they are in the National League East tied with the Mets at 59 and 44. The next win could be big for the Mets and the Phillies if they win against either their opponents, San Francisco and the New York Yankees. Either way, one team needs to claim the National League East. Who will that be? The New York Mets or the Philadelphia Phillies? We don't know until the end of the season. There's still a lot of baseball to be played, but not a lot of months left. We are approaching August, folks. Once we're done with July, that makes only 1 month left, and that's, of course, September, before we hit October, and that's, of course, the postseason timeline, which means the end of a 162-game season for the 2025 MLB season. Who will reign supreme in these final 2 months as we finish July? Who knows? All we do know is that as far as divisions go, while the Yankees may be 2 up in the wild card, they are 5.5 games out of the division, with the Toronto Blue Jays holding sole possession. The Blue Jays are 7.5 games up on the Red Sox, 9 games up on the Tampa Bay Rays, and 16 games up on the Baltimore Orioles. So it's pretty even with the Yankees and the Blue Jays. You could even say that come Yankee Stadium, if both teams falter in their series leading up to that, the division might be on the line again. But that last meeting with the Yankees isn't until later in the last couple of months from now. In fact, their last meeting, folks, isn't until, well, basically the beginning of September, which would be on Friday, September 5th to Sunday, September 7th. After they've had a road series with the Pirates on August 18th to August 20th, and a road series with the Miami Marlins, and that series would take place on August 12th, on August 22nd, I should say, to August 24th. But before all that can go, we have 2 games with the Baltimore Orioles on Tuesday, and 2 games Monday and Wednesday against the Baltimore Orioles. that series, before you get to that series, you have to get to the end of the Tigers series, which continues tomorrow night at 6:10 p.m. Eastern Time, 4:10 p.m. Mountain Time, 5:10 p.m. Central Time, 3:10 Pacific. Who's getting the ball against Kevin Gausman tomorrow? Is it indeed Skubal? Or is it someone else? We don't know. We'll tee up the game in 30 seconds when we return to Blue Jays game recap. The attendance record, my thoughts on this first two games when Blue Jays game recap continues on Sports for Beginners and on the ice and behind the benches. We will be back in 30 seconds.
CNT Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down, nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
All right, Blue Jay fans, Tiger fans, time to put this show into the showers. And up for another edition of Blue Jays and Tigers, weather permitting. It's the Blue Jays and Tigers with Kevin Gausman on the hill for the Blue Jays and a potential starter in place of Tariq Skubal. I hope I'm saying that right. I'll go with TS for short. If I'm not able to get that name right, I'm working on it, guys. I really am. And ladies out there, I'm working on it. But he is scheduled to pitch against Kevin Gausman for Saturday, July 26th. 2025 at 6:10 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:10 p.m. Central Time, 4:10 p.m. Mountain Time, and 3:10 p.m. Pacific Time. Now, there are some games still to watch. Most games have gone final. If you haven't already heard us talk about it, the Royals and the Guardians will be playing a doubleheader tomorrow as part of a makeup game that got postponed due to rain. As far as shutout goes, we have the Twins winning 1-0 over the Washington Nationals. The Rangers take it 8-3 over the Atlanta Braves. Our shutouts include 3-0 victory. Nationals lose to the Cardinals win over the Padres. 1-0 Nationals over the Twins. The Twins take it 1-0. And then, of course, the 1-0 11 inning shutout, which is the Pirates losing to the Arizona Diamondbacks 1-0. On play as of right now, we have the 3-1 New York Mets leading 3-1 in the top of the fourth inning. You guys can watch that action if you are still tuning into it. But hurry if you want to catch the Mariners and the Angels game, because that game is currently headed to the top of the seventh inning. The Mariners tying the Angels at 2 runs apiece. That game is Angels 2, Mariners 2. In the top of the fourth, as I mentioned, the Mets have a 3-1 lead over the Giants. And speaking of which, the Brewers lost 5-1 to the Marlins today. with 8 hits coming off of the Marlins at bats, 5 runs coming off of that. The winner, of course, is Josh Simpson. His record 2-0. That's his second win of the season. The losing pitcher is Aaron Ashby. His record 1-1. He has not lost a first game of the season up until tonight. So that's his first loss of the season. All right. The American League East matchups that were in play, we have the Orioles, who finished off a series against the Guardians earlier yesterday and began a series with the Rockies, ended up losing the first game 6-5. They'll hope to bounce back against the Rockies tomorrow. Speaking of bouncing back, the Yankees gave it their all, but they lose 12-5. And the Blue Jays can fight another day without worrying about the Yankees. Tampa Bay Rays lose to the Reds 7-2. The winning pitcher, of course, Nick Martinez. The losing pitcher, Zach Littell. Now. And the Boston Red Sox, Ryan Bello loses to the LA Dodgers. So I'll go with ES. His record 2-1. C. I'll go with Ben C. His first save of the season. Congratulations to him. Ryan Bello, his record 6-5 right now. That was his fifth loss of the season. And it comes at the hands of the Dodgers. And of course, the Blue Jays win their game against the Tigers 6-2. The White Sox face the Cubs. They beat the Cubs 12-5. Again, the games that are underway right now, of course, in the bottom of the second right now, we're tied at 2 runs apiece with the LA Angels and the Mariners. If you want to catch that game, they're headed into the top of the 7th inning soon, I think, with nobody on base and 1 out in the bottom of the 2nd inning. It looks like the Mets are looking to add on, so join that game wherever you can find it. It's on NBC Baltimore. NBC Sports is Baltimore, Maryland, I think it is. NBC Sports BA. And of course, it's a part of the New York Mets and of course San Francisco Giants broadcast as well. They have a game there. As I mentioned, those games are the only ones underway right now. It's the top of the 4th inning for the Giants and the Mets right now, who currently lead by 2 runs. It is a 3-1 lead there. While it is tied up at 2 for the Mariners and the Angels for now. What will the final score be at the end of this show? At the end of the night? Who knows? For now, a link will be provided in the description of this show. But let's hear from the man himself, the player of the game. Actually, no. We're not going to hear from the player of the game for the Blue Jays, just due to time constraints. But let's eavesdrop on the Tigers and the Blue Jays as they get ready for Game 3 of a 4-game series set as it stands right now, with Jose Berrios getting the dub for the Blue Jays, and K. Montero getting the loss, as he tried his best in front of Comerica Park. Will wrap up this series on Sunday, but tomorrow we have one more night game on the way, and it'll be Jose Barrios' man and Kevin Gausman taking on what is believed to be Thierry Scabal, or TS for short, as the Tigers hope to try and squeeze in a little bit of hope for their fans, not falling 4 games to the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays have 2 games left in this series. Can they take all 4? Blue Jays fans, we certainly hope so. But for all the Tiger fans out there, I'm not saying you will win Game 3, and I'm not saying the Blue Jays will win Game 3 either. But what I am saying is that the Blue Jays and the Tigers are in a 4-game series, and we'll have it for you. Game number 3 of this series, we'll have it for you as soon as it goes final at Comerica Park. All right, that's it for us on Blue Jays game recap, and that is it for us on Sports for Beginners and On the Ice and Behind the Benches. Quick follow-up reminder that if you are tuning in to Sports for Beginners, you might want to stay tuned for the end of the show's special that's going to be happening as soon as the Blue Jays go on an off day, which will be following the 3-game series against the Kansas City Royals at Rogers Center. For now, great games so far, Blue Jays fans, and great games, but good games nonetheless for the Tigers. 2 nights in a row you get unlucky, Tiger fans, but hey, at least we have baseball to play. Game 3 is tomorrow, and Sunday is, of course, Sunday for game number 4. Will we play 3? Will we play 4? Find out those answers next time on Blue Jays game recap. Tigers Jays. The series continues tomorrow. Have yourselves a great night, and Blue Jays fans from far and wide, lights up. Let's go.
Thank you so much for listening to Sports for Beginners. If you would like to learn more about the show, you can visit the podcast Facebook page or visit the official website. You can also send us an email at sportsforbeginnerspodcast8231@gmail.com. As we always remind you, it is not goodbye, it is until next time.
Thank you so much for listening to the On the Ice and Behind the Benches post-game show on the Sports for Beginners podcast feed. Remember, everybody on the Ice and Behind the Benches, to join Thomas every Tuesday for weekly episodes of your favorite ice content, from the drop of the puck to hitting the showers. We thank you for joining us. Hey Blue Jays fans, a Blue Jays game recap for Sports for Beginners. It is your host of On the Ice and Behind the Benches, the podcast, Thomas McGregor here. While it may have come to an end on Sports for Beginners, I highly encourage you to stay tuned for further updates on Sports for Beginners as they are taking a new path. But don't be afraid to join me during the next road series as Blue Jays game recap continues on the Ice and Behind the Benches. From all of us at Sports for Beginners who put Blue Jays game recap into play, thank you very much for joining us and listening to the show. If you'd like to see it again, please let our host of Sports for Beginners know, and have yourselves a great All-Star weekend and a great second half. See you then.